Hello, this is Matt Cush, and this is my Eportfolio highlight video. I will start with my personal goals video. This video was made around April of 2020 when I first got accepted to Fort Hays State. And in this video, I introduced myself. I gave my educational background. I talked about my personal goals and my professional goals. I also said why I picked Fort Hays State. And then I talked a little bit about my expectations for the program. Next is my leadership philosophy. In this writing here, I talked about my values. I mentioned honesty, respect, compassion, and hard work. I talked about some of my accomplishments, such as living in Mexico and learning Spanish. I also talked about some of my failures. I mentioned things like math and science. And then I talked more about my goals, and I mentioned that my goal is to become an administrator at Grand Island Senior High, my current school. Next is my plan of study or program of study. This just covers the 21 credit hours that I took starting in the fall of 2020 up until now, the spring of 2022. I took 6 credit hours each semester and 3 hours in the spring of 2022 for the practicum class. Next is the timeline. For the timeline, I made a video, and in this video, I talked about when I decided to become an educator, my first teaching job, some extra duties that I've done, when I decided to become an educational leader, my program of study, my e-portfolio, when I plan to leave the classroom and become an admin, and when I plan to retire. Next, we have my resume. So for my resume, you can see that it includes a little biography here, maybe a mini biography. I talk about my skills, which is Spanish speaker, leadership, teacher, Google trained, Microsoft Office trained. I talk about my experience currently at Grand Island Senior High and previous teaching experience in Columbus, Nebraska, and Hastings, Nebraska, and the University of Nebraska at Kearney. And then I talk about my education and some awards that I've won. Not many, but a member of Alpha Mu Gamma, which is a foreign language honor society. Then we have the annotated bibliography. So the annotated bibliography was quite a bit of work. I looked up 3 articles on 11 different topics related to educational leadership, and then I summarized them for this annotated bibliography. It ended up being about 48 pages. It was a lot of work, and it was definitely the most time-consuming thing that I did in my practicum class, but I do feel that I learned a lot in doing it. Next, I will talk about the district, elementary, and secondary level activity artifact slideshows. This includes mission and vision statements, ethics and norms, equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness, community and external leadership, operations and management, learning and instruction, and building professional capacity. I gave 21 different activities that I have completed within the last 2 years for these 3 different artifact slideshows. I'm proud of the work that I've done, and these slideshows are the proof of that work. So we'll go through the slideshows now. We'll start with the district level. So this was an assignment that I did in a EDL 852, and it was one of the first assignments I did about mission and vision statements. Then we go to ethics and professional norms, and this was a professional norms chart that I made here. Then on the topic of equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness, this was a zero tolerance policy activity. And community and external leadership, this was a peer review. So when talking about community, doing peer reviews definitely has helped me build community at Fort Hays State, even though it was online. And operations management, this was an internet safety policy that I made, and I think I did a pretty good job here. I'm pretty proud of it. And that's it for the district. Then at the elementary level, for mission, vision, and improvement, this is the activity was chatting about mission and vision statements. This was an assignment I did for my EDL 852 class, I believe it was. Yep, 852. And ethics and professional norms. This activity was integrating ethics into the decision-making process, which is very important. This was an assignment for EDL 852 also. Equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness. This activity was about people first language, and I made a video for this assignment, which was for my EDL 853 class. Learning and instruction. So this was something that I did for my job. So it was a Spanish placement test data analysis. This is, we gave placement tests to students and to decide if we should put them in Spanish speakers class or regular Spanish class. Community and external leadership. This activity was about needs and resources. I talked about the needs and the resources that my school has. And whether they're available or not. Operations and management. This was about FAPE, which is free, appropriate public education. And I just made a Canva about FAPE. Then building professional capacity. This activity was supervision and evaluation and putting it all together. And I did this in my EDL 851 class. And that's it for the elementary. Then for the secondary, which is my area of expertise. So this activity was just Spanish speakers placement. So we did a lot of work to place students, but we had to create a test, and this was a lot of work. So it took about 15 hours at least, I said here. So, but it's worth it in the end because Spanish speakers will be placed in the correct class. So for ethics and professional norms, this activity is new teacher mentoring. So I've been a mentor for several new teachers at my school at Grand Island Senior High, and I've been doing that for a couple years now, but especially this school year, because we have a lot of new young teachers and I've been enjoying mentoring them. And speaking of mentor, this is ethics and professional norms. I'm a Strive mentor in Nebraska, and I mentor refugee children that have recently arrived in the country. They need a little bit extra help, so I'm happy to help them. And this activity here is Wayne State dual credit. So our students at Grand Island Senior High are able to get free dual credit through Wayne State University in Nebraska. And I did have to advocate for this, but it did go through, and I'm very proud that I'm able to offer dual credit for free for the students at my school, at least the ones that take my class. And this activity here was a book study that I did on disciplinary literacy first semester of 2021, or the fall of 2021. And all the content leaders, along with administrators and some other people at the administration building, got together and we did a book study. Every couple of weeks we would get together, and the book study was over disciplinary literacy. Promoting community engagement. So this activity was an assignment for my EDL 856 class, School and Community Relations. Then operations and management. This activity was just communicating who you are. So it just was an introduction video for this class. And then more on operations and management. This activity we did here for my building finance class, EDL 854. It was about evaluating and developing new fund procedures. And building professional capacity. This activity was about building capacity within ourselves and then building within others. As an administrator, building capacity is something that I will need to do in the future, and this activity helped do that. Then I have my administrative verification document. I gave this document to my principal, who is named Mr. Gilbertson, Jeff Gilbertson, to fill out. I also gave him access to my Eportfolio. He was very complimentary of my Eportfolio. And it looks like he said I was doing everything right, so that made me feel pretty good too. And then the last thing that I did was my program reflection. This allowed me to reflect on my last 2 years at Fort Hays State and was the final thing in my Eportfolio besides this video that I'm making right now. Yes, this really helped me reflect, and one thing that I learned through a lot of my courses is reflection is very important, and it's something that I'm planning to continue to do in the future as a future administrator. I got to reflect over all of my classes that I took. Just a few of the highlights, at least. And that's it. Thank you for your time.